I still can't quite believe what just happened. I know. I inquired with the bailiff after the court session was adjourned, and it seems Mr. Vigil was taken to the hospital to recover. Right. 10 years ago now, Mr. Vigil attempted to commit suicide by jumping out of the window of the prison governor's office, but ever since then, he's completely blocked the memory of those events from his mind. Nobody knew his secret, not his family, not even the man himself, but I forced it out into the open. Was it wrong of me to do that? Did I overstep the mark, I wonder? Bruno. Oh, Iris. You were miles away. Anyway, I brewed a fresh pot of soothing tea for you. Oh, thank you. You and Susie have had an exhausting day so far, haven't you? Oh. Thank you, Iris. How thoughtful of you. Do you happen to know where Mr. Sholmes is? When we came out of the courtroom back into the defendant's antechamber, he disappeared. Oh, no, I don't know. He just suddenly sprang to his feet and left. All he said was, "I must leave." I wonder if he's pursuing the mystery of Inspector Gregson's death. Well, you know what Hurley's always saying, don't you? There are mysteries in this world that should perhaps never be solved. For the construction of a solution comes only at the expense of the destruction of something else. What does that mean? He knows very well when you open someone else's old wounds, you often open your own too. But he just can't take his own advice and leave well alone. Solving mysteries is too important to him. That's so true. But that's what I like about Hurley after all. I suppose that's the lot of a great detective in some ways. So then, let's have tea, and then I'll give you a hand. Oh, do you have time, Iris? Yes, I finished this month's manuscript at last, with barely a day to spare before the deadline. Oh, I'm so looking forward to it. A brand new story to read in The Adventures of Sherlock Sholmes. You know, I always hide Hurley's violin in the days before I have a deadline. You do? Poor Mr. Sholmes. I'm sure that's very wise, Iris. How sensible of you. Now then, my dear fellows, let's make a plan of action before we continue our investigation. So, how did it go in court this morning? Well, we still don't know the truth about what really happened, but one thing's increasingly clear. Lord Van Zykes definitely didn't do it. Oh, goody. Yes, that's right. We managed to uncover several new facts as well. Oh, really? And there was another development too. Kazuma. Yes, it's quite clear now that Kazuma is not himself. The way he's acting, it's almost as if he's possessed. I know. I mean, at the end of the proceedings earlier, he was like a bloodhound the way he was chasing down Mr. Vigil's forgotten past. He's not normally so mercilessly persistent. What's going on in his head, I wonder? I really need to sit down with Kazuma and try to understand what he's going through. If Gregson was really murdered the day before his body was discovered, then Lord Van Zykes has to be innocent, you see. What? The day before? Well, that should be easy enough to work out, just by examining the corpse, surely. Yes, you would expect so, but curiously, no time of death was included in the autopsy report. That is curious. There's still unanswered questions about Lord Van Zykes, though, aren't there? Do you mean... what was he doing there on Fresno Street that day in the first place? Well, according to the man's testimony, he said he was investigating Inspector Gregson, didn't he? And it turns out that little room was actually the inspector's secret office. Oh, that sounds like it has all the makings of a wonderfully devilish plot. But then why was that notice board in there covered in all those particular papers? Papers about cases with a link to the Reaper. I'm starting to get a bad feeling about all this. Oh dear, that sounds more like something horribly devilish. We must start by looking into Inspector Gregson's movements of late. I never imagined I might have to be investigating an inspector's movements. Well, according to the entry in his diary, he was carrying out an incognito investigation of the Red-Headed League the day before his death. Oh, you mean he was doing the same as Hurley? Well, Mr. Sholmes was trying to apply, whereas the inspector was supposed to be investigating. I do wish it had been the other way around. Anyway, as it turns out, the inspector who went to investigate the Red-Headed League that day wasn't actually Gregson at all. It was Mr. Vigil, in possession of Gregson's identification. You know what that sounds like to me? Establishing an alibi. Oh my, yes, you're absolutely right, Iris. But why would Gregson need an alibi? It would appear that the inspector has something to do that he wished to keep secret. I don't believe it. I always thought he was just a harmless lover of fish and chips. But perhaps they were seasoned with something a little more potent than salt and vinegar. I think perhaps we should try to move away from food analogies. But anyway, if Lord Van Zykes felt the need to investigate Gregson, yes, I agree. We must try to find out what he knows. Vigil, you say? Isn't that the name of the lady who came to visit Hurley yesterday? That's right, to ask Mr. Sholmes if he would help her to find her missing husband. Only Mr. Sholmes completely passed the buck to us. Actually, didn't you say that Mr. Vigil had been taken to the hospital? Do you know which one? It's St. Sinners. I'm starting to wonder if all the other hospitals in London have closed down. But that's amazing, Bruno. You found the lady's husband already. Well, I suppose I have, by accident. And 10 years ago, while Mr. Vigil was the chief warder at the prison, he was responsible for overseeing the professor's incarceration. No. So when the convict escaped, he was held responsible and immediately dismissed. Sometimes I really don't want to grow up. There's more. For 10 years after that, while he was ostensibly working as a peddler, he also had another secret job. He was paid by Gregson to be his stand-in, to impersonate the inspector. To impersonate Gregsy, but why? I have absolutely no idea. Ginny was right. I'm starting to think all adults are up to no good now. Including you, Bruno. I haven't paid anyone to impersonate me. That means he has ties to the professor and to Inspector Gregson, though. So I do think we ought to pay a visit to Mr. Vigil, don't you? Back to St. Sinners, then. Well, I think it's clear what we need to do, isn't it? Let us investigate, my dear fellows. Oh, Iris, you're even more enthusiastic than usual today. If anyone has anything to hide, my special Wilson shooting iron will soon set them straight. That water pistol? It's stuffed full of a piping hot extra special blend of mine. Then I'm quite sure it will be very effective. I better be careful not to hide anything. Well, it feels a little strange that Mr. Sholmes is nowhere to be seen, but still, let's go and see what we can find out. Yes. Lord Van Zykes is reading. Look. He doesn't seem like he wants visitors, does he? But he must have noticed that we're here, surely. What do you Nipponese want? That's no way to greet the lawyer who's trying his hardest to prove your innocence, is it? Perhaps not. I apologize. So what can I do for you, Mr. Naruhodo? Lord Van Zykes, speaking earnestly. Oh, the fog will lift over London for the first time in months tomorrow. This does feel very, very strange. I must say, I was impressed. Oh, well, thank you. Not by you, by your fellow Nipponese, your prosecutor friend. Oh, I see. Yeah. It's sardonic, don't you think? For a man such as me, so loathing of the Nipponese to be entirely at the mercy of the two of you. I suppose it's retribution for having played the part of the Reaper all these years. Played the part? You once told me that you gladly allowed people to believe you were the Reaper because it helped reduce the amount of serious crime that took place in London. If keeping quiet and playing the part benefits the cause, a cause I myself am committed to pursuing, then why would I choose to say anything? But the henchman of a criminal killed by the Reaper attacked you only the other day, and that was just the most recent of many attempts on your life, wasn't it? Someone is clearly profiting from your silence about all of this. Someone is using you. Believe me, ever since the Reaper first appeared, I've been doing my utmost to expose him. Or rather, expose the organization. Oh, it's a whole organization? It's inconceivable that all those accidents were orchestrated by one man. No, the Reaper always appears to have very accurate information about the accused in each case, which can only mean that somebody at Scotland Yard is involved. Someone at... You can't mean... It's taken me many years... Oh, I thought he said too many's. But I finally identified the central figure in this Reaper organization. Tobias Gregson. No. Gregson, the Reaper? So, the reason you were investigating Inspector Gregson is because you intended to expose him as the Reaper? As I said, the Reaper of the Bailey is no single person. It's a highly secret organization with close ties to Scotland Yard. But there's no doubt that Gregson was a key member of that organization. I don't believe it. Are you saying that that he was behind all those awful criminals meeting there? Gregson didn't do the dirty work himself. Oh. He was the tactician. His job was to covertly investigate the marks and plot their assassinations. In order to do that without arousing suspicion, he regularly needed a firm alibi, which is where Mr. Vigil came in, posing as the inspector. Vigil knows nothing of the Reaper, but the room he rents on Fresno Street was almost certainly the headquarters of the operation. Gregson would have met the assassin there for briefings. So we don't actually know who carried out the killings, then? Actually, I do have a name. You what? Well, if you can name the man, you have the true identity of the Reaper already, then. Or, if I can name the woman... Oh. She's a young woman by the name of Asashin. Asashin. Wait, what? Shin? Oh, is that who she was? Oh, when did we learn this? Now I'm forgetting. Miss Asashin, the true name of a terrifying killer I know only too well. When did we learn this? I don't remember this. She came to Japan posing as a visiting student and murdered Dr. John H. Wilson. Then, just when it seemed that diplomatic protection would help her escape Japan and conviction, the mysterious woman was herself murdered in a small summer beach hut. And that woman was actually the Reaper of the Bailey? Mr. Naruhodo, this perhaps isn't the place to discuss. No, of course not. We can't mention it here. The fact that she killed Dr. John H. Wilson, because Iris doesn't know, and it's very likely that man was her father. Asashin. I should let father know at once. Yes, I agree. Kazuma, isn't it? Kazuma Asogi? You say he's a friend of yours? My best friend. He's the whole reason I got to come to Britain. It was all on his merits. I have nothing but respect for him. Yes, I understand that only the very best students are selected for such opportunities, and I had a fine demonstration of how sharp he is in the proceedings earlier today. He missed nothing. In fact, his flawless performance very much reminded me of his father, Genshin Asogi, the professor. It's true that the aristocracy at the time was the root of numerous grave societal problems. They were abusing their power, playing with the common man as pawns in politics, in economics, in war. In many ways, Asogi was carving out a canker from society that we British couldn't deal with ourselves. I see. But that's precisely why it makes no sense. Clint Van Zykes was a noble and upstanding man. He wasn't corrupt. Why did that damn Nipponese have to go and take my brother's life? In spite of having once saved mine. He saved your life? How did that happen? It was 10 years ago, on a foggy night. What was to be the professor's final strike had sent a wave of panic through the capital. So Clint Van Zykes had already been killed at this point, then. Genshin and I were walking down some back streets at a late hour. Of course, at that point, I had no idea of the true nature of the man at my side. All of a sudden... Don't make a peep. You're coming with us. We were surrounded. All of our assailants were armed with pistols, their faces obscured by scarves. Clint was not only from noble heritage, he was a brilliant prosecutor as well. The scum of London hated the sight of him, and they had no sympathy for his younger brother either. I'd been targeted several times before already. Yeah, it's Van Zykes all right. We got him. I could hear them murmuring amongst themselves. I knew they were after me. But just when I thought my time had come, if I let them kill you, Clint would never forgive me. It was Asogi's voice, just a whisper in my ear. After that, I don't remember exactly what happened. The next thing I knew, there was silence all around. Genshin lay on the cobbled street. Blood was seeping from his left hand. He shielded me. 2 days later, they arrested him on suspicion of being London's most notorious mass murderer ever, the Professor. How awful for you. All at once, I lost the brother I revered and the foreign friend I held in such high regard. I'm so sorry, Lord Van Zykes. That's the end of my miserable tale. I never thought I'd recount it to anyone. Well, thank you for confiding in me. The Professor, the Reaper, and Inspector Gregson. I wonder just how intimately related they all are. I still can't quite believe that Gregson was essentially the Reaper, giving assassination orders to Giselle Brett. Mr. Naruhodo, let's go and inform my father. I'm sure our government will want to hear about this new information. Oh, that means I get to meet your daddy, Susie? Hooray! Yeah, alright. Let's head back to the Great Waterloo Hotel then. No arguments, Prosecutor Asogi. You will continue with the trial exactly as I instructed. Is that clear? perfectly. It's Kazuma, defying Lord Strongheart by the sound of it. He never did know when to back down. On your way now, Asogi, my lord. Kazuma. He left without saying a word. Yes? What are you doing here? Oh, well, I was just hoping to ask you a few questions if you wouldn't mind. I wanted Van Zyx's trial concluded today, but Prosecutor Asogi's unwelcome inquiries are going to make it take longer than necessary. Unwelcome inquiries? As a result, I'm losing even more precious time. Currently 2 hours, 55 minutes, and 41 seconds. 42, 43. Then we must resolve everything before 3 hours have passed. In a miraculous not even 5 minutes? Anyway, I can't let the man's obvious bad mood put me off. I need information. Does Prosecutor Asogi believe that Lord Van Zyx is the Reaper? I wouldn't know. It was 10 years ago in that fateful closed trial that Lord Van Zyx made a name for himself among the judiciary. But the next trial he fought, he lost. It meant the ringleader of a criminal organization was acquitted, thanks to all the jurors being under duress. But that's awful. The man's freedom was short-lived. He lasted just 3 days. Yes, let me see. He died in a rock slide at his place of work, I believe. Correct. That was the inauguration of the Reaper of the Bailey. And people believed Lord Van Zyx was responsible? He was brought to trial himself, but it was shown to have been an accident. So he must have had a solid alibi then. Nevertheless, the mysterious deaths continued. In total, 16 persons perished in unusual circumstances, ostensibly at the hand of the Reaper. That's a long run of coincidences. Well, the Reaper's true identity may well be revealed by this trial. And the impact that revelation would have on the British public cannot be understated. Is that why it's a closed trial? Precisely. This country hasn't seen a closed trial for 10 years. So the last one was the professors, the trial of Genshin Asogi? Correct. Actually, we heard that originally you were going to prosecute that trial yourself, Lord Strongheart. Van Zyx entreated me to relinquish the prosecution to him, that he might avenge his brother's death. And here we are, 10 years later. With the son of the man Van Zyx had condemned now looking to avenge his father's death in the same way. They do say that what goes around comes around. However, it would seem that the new young prosecutor is harboring some ulterior motive as well. Kazuma is? I like my organization to run smoothly in the exact manner that I prescribe. As with the giant clock in here, I won't tolerate a single cog being out of step with the others. Oh, so that's what all these gears are about in here. If the young man refuses to mesh with the other parts of my great machine, I will be forced to take steps. What do you mean? Not something with which you need to concern yourself. In any case, all your questions will be answered tomorrow. Now, I shall have to ask you to excuse me. As of this moment, I've been delayed from attending my next meeting by precisely 3 hours. Oh my, that is a long time. And I hold you entirely responsible. Even though we miraculously managed to fit everything into not even 5 minutes? I wonder if you might agree to us talking with Prosecutor Asogi. Discussions between the defense and the prosecution outside of the courtroom are generally frowned upon. However, I will make an exception in this case. Now go. You can find me in his office. You can find him, not me. You can find him in his office. Oh, thank you. Let's go see him at once. Kazuma's my best friend in the world, but I'm really not at all sure I know how to talk to him at the moment. I thought it yesterday and I think it again today. This place is so princely. It's a wild guess, but I have a feeling you'll think the same thing tomorrow too. My tea has a finer fragrance than whatever they're serving in the tea room here, though, wouldn't you say? Ah, look who we have here. This is an unexpected pleasure. Father. Ooh, is this your daddy, Susie? How lovely. What a charming young lady. And you are? Oh, really? So you're the author of The Adventures of Sherlock Sholmes, are you? That's me, Iris Wilson, at your service, sir. Susie's been such a wonderful friend to me over the last year, you know. Well, Miss Wilson, I must say I read your work regularly and with much interest. Iris actually lives with Mr. Sholmes, you know, Father. Is that so? Well, perhaps that goes the same way to explaining that bright look in your eyes. You wouldn't be smiling so airily if you knew just how bright she is, believe me. Now then, young Naruhodo, it was a pleasure seeing you in action earlier. As an invitee of the symposium, I was allowed to observe from the gallery after I twisted some arms. And I must say, it was a truly exemplary performance. Oh, well, thank you very much. Although I'm fairly sure you omitted by Kazuma on the end there. No, please don't misunderstand. It was you who impressed me. Really? You didn't miss a step against Asogi, and we all know how capable he is. Really, you have matured into such a fine defense lawyer in less than a year. Not you. To have matured into such a fine defense lawyer in less than a year is quite extraordinary. It's very kind of you to say so, and really nice to hear. What I saw in court today confirmed what I'd been hoping for. The favor I mentioned yesterday. I trust you haven't forgotten? Oh, no, you did mention something, didn't you? But first, we have something to report. Of course. Shall we take tea while we discuss matters further? I wonder where Judge Jigoku has got to. Or gone, maybe gone to. I might have misread that. Father, do you know about the so-called Reaper of the Bailey? I've heard rumors. Some members of the judiciary explained it all to me yesterday. Of course, when I was a visiting student here in London, the Reaper was yet to emerge. Right, he didn't appear until after that case, when the visiting students had already returned home. Lord Van Zykes, who was in the dock today. That was Barack, the younger brother of Clint Van Zykes, I believe. That's right. He's known throughout London as the Reaper, as you've heard. But the truth is, it wasn't him behind all those mysterious deaths. It was somebody else. I see. So what you're saying is, there's been a professional killer at work here? Exactly. Someone by the name of Asashin, in fact. I beg your pardon. Did you say Asashin? You mean that Giselle Brett woman who was responsible for killing my great friend? Oh no, a friend of yours was killed. Professor Mikotoba, I think perhaps we shouldn't discuss this right now. Because the friend the prosecutor is talking about is Dr. John H. Wilson. And that's not something we want Iris to find out about. Not like this, anyway. Ah, I've just remembered something. Biscuits. This hotel has the most delicious looking biscuits. That was rather out of the blue. Oh, she's doing this deliberately. I think I'll go and see if I can purchase some. I wonder, would you like to come too, Iris? Oh, yes. You just try to leave me behind. So that young girl is called Iris Wilson, is she? Yes, that's right. And she's the author of all those adventure stories starring the great Detective Sholmes? But the name of the credited author isn't Iris, is it? It's Dr. John H. Wilson. Yes, I know. That's the name of her father, you see. Her father? Dr. John H. Wilson. I was deeply indebted to the man for all the kindness he showed me during my time in London. That's why I was keen to reciprocate and invite him to the Imperial Yume University 4 years ago. But he was murdered last year by Giselle Brett. Why? Why would the hand of the Reaper stretch all the way to Japan? Iris knows nothing about that case, but it seems very likely that the victim, Dr. Wilson, was her father. Well, I can't say that we ever spoke about his family, so I don't know if he had a daughter or not, but I think I can say with some certainty that he was never the great detective's partner. So it could have been another Dr. Wilson, you think? Well, John and Wilson are both common names after all. Still, it's probably best not to mention this to the young lady until we can be sure. That's what we thought, yeah. We're back with cinnamon biscuits. Oh, they smell delicious, Iris. I think cinnamon will go very well with the tea they serve here. Don't you, Susie? Yes, I'm sure you're right. I haven't seen Judge Jigoku for a while, have you? That guilty is still ringing in my ears. No, now that you mention it, I haven't seen him since this morning either. I suppose since the symposium's opening was postponed, he'll have gone to explore the great exhibition. That reminds me of something you mentioned yesterday. About Judge Jigoku having once been in the dock himself? Yes, it was all tied up with that accursed trial. The closed trial of Kazuma's father. Seishiro was trying to mitigate Genshin's guilt, so he took to the stand to testify. But he got a little carried away and actually managed to break the witness's stand. Oh my. He also said some contemptuous words about the British Empire, for which he was charged. Oh dear. Although it's worryingly easy to imagine him doing that. Well, it was all right in the end. He was acquitted and we returned home to Japan together. Thank goodness. Yes, talking of Seishiro, I have a copy of the photograph we all took together here yesterday. Oh, what a lovely picture. It certainly seems to shout, "We've arrived in Britain." The commemorative photograph. Oh, he had this big, oh, look at that. Look, in that picture, he had this big ass suitcase. You could totally fit a body in there. Like, sir, like, is this not suspicious at all? I guess maybe if he had like a whole bunch of luggage, but now that we figured it's like, oh, he was like, you know, like maybe Gregson was killed the day before. Like, would he not be hiding him in there? That seems big. None of us had any idea what was coming when we took that. Did we? Nope, that's so true. So, you mentioned a favor that you'd like to ask me? Well, this fateful trial that you're fighting, one way or another, it'll be over before long. And when it is, I'd like you to accompany me back to Japan. You want me to do what? Father? What's the meaning of this? Now, Susato, you should understand. You've seen how our courts work firsthand. Japan's judicial system is in its infancy, especially when it comes to defense. Oh, you mean the Supreme Court of Judicature is in desperate need of a good defense lawyer as soon as possible. Really quite urgently, in fact. But I've not even been in London a year yet. I read all of Susato's reports. I'm well aware of your extraordinary talents, and having seen you in action with my own eyes earlier today, there's no question. You, Naruhodo, are precisely the man our country needs. So, you'd be leaving then, Runo? But then, what am I supposed to do? You came here to serve as Asogi's judicial assistant. Oh yeah, she's supposed to be Kazuma's assistant. Our government is still in the process of deciding how best to deal with his situation, though. You've always chosen your own path, Susato, and I trust your judgment. In this matter also. Please, the pair of you, don't look so downcast. It's merely a suggestion, you understand. A hope, if I'm honest, but I won't force you. All I ask is that you consider it, and come to a decision by the time this trial concludes. Yeah, okay. You won't leave, will you, Runo? The thought hadn't even crossed my mind. Up until now, I've just been trying to do what I believe to be Kazuma's will, but it turns out that he's still alive, so where does that leave me? Well, if you'll excuse me now, I need to telegram government ministers and the Japanese police with this information about Asashin. Of course. Thank you. I look forward to next month's installment, Miss Wilson. Oh, good. And please do come to Baker Street sometime, won't you? We'd love to entertain you. I would be delighted. The best of luck for tomorrow, Naruhodo. And give my suggestion your full consideration, won't you? Yes, I will. Going back home? I mean, it is kind of like now at this point now, it's like, oh yeah, going back home. Like, does he not have a family? Like, it's not quite clear, because it's like you would think it's like, oh, like his parents are like, he would have like a guardian. I mean, I guess he was in university, so I guess he was like they're full-blown adults at this point. Even though he's wearing like a high school like uniform, but I don't know, maybe it's like a Western thing where they age them up so it like is not as weird. I don't know. Oh, sorry. But I was just wondering, like, does he not have like a family, like grandparents, someone he's like telegramming? Like, then how did he? I'm just going to assume he like worked hard to get into school or something like that. And then now it's, now the whole thing's popping off. Like, he doesn't have anyone to go home to. I'm sure he'd love the chance to meet with him and talk to him about all of this. Yeah, no doubt. Asashin. Of course, it's so obvious. How could I have neglected to consider the possibility before now? Ah, Mr. Sholmes? Hurley, where have you been? Why, I joined you all for tea, of course. What an extraordinary question. I didn't notice you at all. No matter. Anyway, to more pressing concerns, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, yes? I must dispatch a telegram to your country at once. It is a matter of much urgency. To Japan, you mean? Tell me, to whom can I entrust the task? Quickly now, who? Well... My father has just now left to send a telegram to the Imperial Police Bureau of Japan himself. I see. Well, he looked reliable enough for a bearded fellow. I don't think what father sports could be considered a beard, Mr. Sholmes. There's not a moment to lose. kindly ask your trusty unshaven father to see this is sent. I will. Well, what is it? No questions at this time, if you please, Miss Susato. All we can do is pray that for once, my deduction is awry. Doesn't that imply that your deductions are normally correct, Mr. Sholmes? Which isn't exactly. Now then! You may be surprised to learn that I am a very busy man. I certainly have no time to hide behind, I don't know what, settees and eavesdrop on other people's conversations. So that's what joining us for tea meant? I leave the sending of this in your hands then, my dear fellows. Wait a minute, Mr. Sholmes. He just sort of ran off, didn't he? At quite a pace. And left the unpaid bill for his tea behind, too. I must catch up with Father at the telegraph office at once. And I'll run and call us a cab. Straight away. And there was me thinking everyone would be clamoring to pay Mr. Sholmes' bill. This is the ward where Mr. Vigil was... Vigil! Every time Mr. Vigil was brought, apparently. To be frank, I'm a little worried about seeing him again. Ah, the lawyer. Hello again. Are you feeling better now, Mr. Vigil? Yes, thank you. Somewhat better. I'm so sorry to have caused you to... it was because of me. If I hadn't exposed your secret and forced you to remember things you'd obviously tried to forget. The prosecutor was here until a few moments ago, too. You just missed him. Oh, Cosmo beat us to it. He said much the same as you. He was very apologetic. But the truth is, I brought all this upon myself. Please don't think like that. Keeping it from Evie, my wife, all these years, I've carried such a sense of guilt. But that's not the worst of it. Over time, I obviously came to deceive myself as well. You mean about your dismissal? Looking back now, I'm beginning to think that perhaps Inspector Gregson didn't stumble across me by accident at all. He compensated me so generously for acting as his stand-in. He was clearly concerned for my well-being and doing what he could to help. So perhaps Gregson knew exactly what had become of Mr. Vigil all along then. I'm sure this is just desserts for 10 years of lies and deception, but... It wasn't me that helped the professor escape 10 years ago. It wasn't me. I swear. I swear it's true. I'm sure you'd rather not dredge up even more from your past at this time, but if possible, could you tell us exactly what really happened? I want to. I need to get all this off my chest. I just want someone to tell me what I should have done. Inspector Gregson was obviously engaged in a special operation of some sort. He was investigating something that even Scotland Yard couldn't know about. Details of the Reaper's marks. Yes. It was when he had to carry out those investigations that I would take his identification and impersonate him. You'd pretend to be the inspector and carry out investigations on his behalf? Oh no, never. A common street peddler couldn't possibly carry out a proper police investigation. All I would do is go to the specified location and make a little hoo-ha. Just something to leave an impression, so everyone there would think a detective called Gregson was here. So, that's what you were doing on the day prior to the incident? Yes, he asked me to make an appearance at the park on Lime Street for the Red-Headed League event. So, as usual, I flashed the inspector's identification around and was very vocal about my presence. But then you were taken prisoner by those red-headed fraudsters. Yes. So, you would always make a point of showing Gregson's identification and generally being loud? That's what the inspector asked me to do, yes. Well, that's one way of becoming a legendary detective, I suppose. Not a good one, though. And as you know, I suffered this bruising around my neck at their hands. But the following day, they kept their word and released me. Without returning the inspector's identification to you, however. We had arranged to meet in the Fresno Street room at 5 that day so I could report back to the inspector. But at the agreed time, that's when I heard the gunshot. It was at midnight on the 17th of June 10 years ago. That was the time scheduled for the execution. But the professor's execution never actually took place, did it? Or rather, the execution itself must have been used to effect the plan of escape. I hardly dare to imagine what a chilling plan it was. Barclay was renowned for being the highest security prison in the country. Everything that went in or out of the place was searched multiple times. But there was one notable exception, or rather, one notable loophole, something that was never questioned. I have a feeling I know what that loophole was now. The coffins into which the bodies of the executed convicts were placed, correct? Yes. Once the coroner had confirmed the death of a condemned convict, the body was taken in its coffin for immediate burial in Lowgate Cemetery, just behind the prison. The chief warder had to sign the necessary papers. And after that, no member of staff was permitted to touch the coffin containing the body again. When executions took place, only the executioner and the coroner were permitted inside the chamber. I would wait in the adjacent room for word that the condemned convict was dead. On that occasion, once I had that confirmation, I went into the mortuary to find a lone coffin as usual. The procedure was that I would sign the paperwork having checked the coffin, then nail it shut. But for some reason that day, the coffin was already nailed shut. No. I didn't think anything of it at the time. I assumed that my deputy must have checked the coffin and nailed it shut before I arrived. So, you mean the coffin contained... Yes, I can only imagine that Asogi, having escaped his execution somehow, was alive inside the coffin. The coffin was then taken out through the main gate and deposited in Lowgate Cemetery. Presumably there wouldn't have been enough air inside to breathe for long, so in the early hours following the burial, somebody dug up the coffin again to set Genshin free. But in the end, he was fatally shot in the graveyard anyway. What on earth really happened in Lowgate Cemetery that night, I wonder? I'm afraid I really don't know. All I can say with certainty are 2 things. Asogi couldn't possibly have escaped that way without help from somebody working in the prison. And that somebody was not me. Obviously you knew the man then? The professor, I mean? Genshin Asogi? Yes, I remember him well, in fact. Would you mind telling us what you know? Well, having been condemned to death as he was, any contact I had with the man was short, obviously. After that trial, which was carried out behind closed doors, attended only by elite members of the judiciary, they called for his execution to be carried out at the earliest possible opportunity. The outcome of the trial was set from the beginning, wasn't it? It was a time of delicate diplomacy, when Britain and Japan were in the process of signing an important treaty. That meant that his potentially destabilizing case had to be dealt with swiftly and discreetly. The man had less than a week in total. As I was the chief warder, I oversaw his short stay in the cells until his final hour. I remember being struck deeply by his noble character and incredible resilience. What do you mean exactly? He was a killer of many men, but he was always quiet and polite. He was a gentleman and a man of intellect. In fact, I couldn't bring myself to believe what he'd done, so I asked him one day. Those 5 members of the aristocracy whose lives were taken, were you really responsible? I'm guilty of the unforgivable crime of ending another human's life. Yes. The following day, the closed trial took place, and the verdict was no surprise. Guilty. That night, when he was brought back to his cell, I saw something. Something unusual. Something unusual? What? The last will and testament of Genshin Asogi. As I said, it was on the night following his trial, after he'd been found guilty. I was doing the rounds of the cells, and when I looked into Asogi's, I noticed that he seemed to have a sheet of paper in his hand. His last will and testament, then, presumably. As soon as he noticed me, he hurriedly shoved it in his back, behind his back. But why did you find that so unusual? Isn't it normal for a man to pen a will when he knows his death is nigh? Yes, that's true, but there were special conditions to Asogi's incarceration, you see. What sort of conditions? Well, even though he was held in a cell designed for condemned inmates, he was allowed to keep his personal effects with him, with one exception. Really? He was allowed his things? That is unusual, certainly. Of course, he'd been convicted of killing 5 members of the aristocracy, but at the same time, he was a guest in our country from the Empire of Japan. The powers that be were determined that his final days shouldn't be needlessly uncomfortable. And what was the exception you mentioned? To the personal effects he was allowed. That's the point. He wasn't permitted to have writing materials. Specifically, no pens or paper. So he was prevented from leaving any written record of what had happened to him? Yes, that was the long and the short of it. I've no idea where he obtained that paper. Any writing materials would have been confiscated from him upon his incarceration. As I said, he hid the paper behind his back and then he pleaded with me. What did you just hide behind your back? Please turn a blind eye. This is my lifeline. But you know it's against the rules. You're the only person who's seen. If you just agree to keep quiet. All right then. But what's on that paper? A last will and testament. This will is the only weapon I have left now. How can a will be a weapon? So I decided to pretend I'd seen nothing, and I let him keep his will. But then later, it just seemed to vanish without a trace. What? What do you mean it vanished? It would seem that isn't the end of the story of this mysterious will. I was the only person who saw Asogi's will, but somehow it disappeared. It was after Asogi's execution, which was actually an elaborate jailbreak. The warders gathered up Asogi's possessions that were in his cell. They were all to be sent back to his family home in Japan, you see. To Port Kazuma. And you're saying that it wasn't anywhere to be found among his personal effects? The will, I mean. That's right. Though I didn't search through them myself. But Governor Caden was livid. He was screaming. It cannot have disappeared completely. That doesn't quite make sense though, does it? In what way? Well, we'd understood that only Mr. Vigil was aware of the will's existence. In which case, how did the prison governor know to look for it? Oh, yes, you're right. I really don't know how he knew, but it certainly seemed as though he knew of the will's existence from the outset. Only he didn't refer to it as a will. What he said was, The Asogi papers. The Asogi papers? I really can't tell you anything of the subsequent events. Because, well, of what happened. Your dismissal, and the way you blocked it all from your memory. I've forgotten all this until today. I don't suppose it's relevant to the case, though. Well, anyway, thank you very much for sharing it with us, Mr. Vigil. We're very grateful. I'm afraid there's really little more I can tell you. My wife Evie will be here shortly, so I do hope I don't appear rude, but... Oh, no, not at all. Thank you again. But what will become of you now? Well, impersonating a police officer is a criminal offense, of course. I imagine that once I'm fully recovered, I shall be arrested. I'm so sorry. Don't be, please. This was all my own doing. I always knew that this day would come. Well, I wish you well. Goodbye, Mr. Vigil. Whoa. Before you go, there's just one thing. Oh, yes? What is it? The Asogi papers. I'd be very grateful if you'd make no mention of the things I told you about them. Presumably for some good reason. It's my understanding that their very existence is a closely guarded secret. If it became known that I'd remembered, well, it could be rather troublesome, I think. I understand. Some sort of will that Genshin Asogi penned just before his death, which the man himself claimed was his last weapon. I wonder, perhaps it had something to do with his plan to escape? If there's anyone who might know more about a document that Cosmo's father left behind, it would be Mr. Vigil. I was about to call him. Oh my God, Mr. Vigil's governor. Then we know precisely where we must go. Back to Barclay Prison. Back again, are you? Yes. Hello. I've heard all about your investigations. I read the report just now. You found him, eh, Vigil? Yes, luckily. Well, anywho, the laddie doesn't work here no more. So your case is now to do with Barclay. I wouldn't like you to get the wrong idea about that. Of course, yes, Mr. Vigil stopped working here 10 years ago now, so... Yes, we've seen his dismissal notice, haven't we? He was given the chop. Aye, Kimmer, you can very well. So, how about a wee handcuff biscuit? Oh, they really are like handcuffs. Like little handcuffs. And as hard as irons, too. So, what's brought you down here today? Well, there's something else we'd like to ask you about, actually. Is that so? We believe there might have been a document that disappeared from Genshin Asogi's cell. I think it's been called the Asogi papers or something. Did I no say Gregson's death is not to do with things that might have happened at Barclay? Leave the past in the past, laddie. There's not food or a boot with irrelevant details. Or let's not food or a boot. His expressions changed completely. We're clearly onto something here. That murderer's botched execution and the whole miserable escape. They were Barclay's darkest hour, a shocking embarrassment. Because the convict had a collaborator on the prison's... maybe that was supposed to be in? On the... I guess that makes sense. On the prison staff, you mean? Aye, for shame. the coroner who confirmed the death of the man after his execution, Courtney Scythe, and my chief warder at the time, Vigil, who was in charge of the whole affair. But Mr. Vigil says he didn't know anything about it. The rascal wouldn't have say otherwise, eh? More handcuffs? Oh, how could I say no? You can never have too much iron in your diet. When Mr. Vigil was handed his dismissal notice as a result of what happened, he was so despairing he jumped out of your office window, didn't he? I did not like to say, but that's just Vigil trying to get out of it. Do you not think he wouldn't have jumped from the shock of his crimes being exposed, eh? I do. You wouldn't say otherwise, though, would you? Of course, I cannot shun all responsibility myself. I shouldn't have let him deceive me. Actually, there's barely anybody that kens what went on at the time now. With Gregson having been murdered and Dr. Scythe forbidden from having any visitors. No visitors? Someone obviously doesn't want her giving anything away. Well, we're not going home empty-handed. And I wouldn't dream of sending you packing without Kimmer. Here, take a handcuff or two. Oh, well, it would be rude to say no. Wouldn't want to become anemic. I suppose if there's anybody who might still can about what happened about then, it'd be that last from the forensic division, Maria Gorey. Maria Gorey? Aye, Scythe's daughter. She didn't have no more, just the one. But the wee Byron followed in her mom's footsteps. You didn't ever see her without a scalpel in her hand. Oh. Yeah, she wanted to slice and dice us. Mama, what is this? Where'd she spring from? She's called Dr. Mama? Dr. Scythe's daughter, Maria Gorey. We could do with talking to her. So, she's Dr. Scythe's daughter, but her surname is Gorey? Aye, there's some family history, I'm sure, but I didn't ken the ins and outs of it. She grew up watching her mom working with the bodies of folk who died in strange circumstances and decided to do the same with her own life. I cannot understand it myself. Perhaps she was driven by a deep respect for her mother? Perhaps. Anywho, she was in charge of Gregson's autopsy, I believe. Right, and the coroner's responsible for this incomplete report. Someone told me once that the wee lassie always loved her mam's stories about cutting up bodies. There's even a rumor that she used to listen to the funeral march as a lullaby. Well, then perhaps her mother might have told her about the autopsy from the case 10 years ago. Aye, I'd say there's a fighting chance at least. After all, that was a life-changing case for all of us. We really need to speak to Miss Gorey herself about this, I think. Well, thank you very much. I'm no happy about any part of this. It took years for Londoners to finally forget the whole professor business. Can you get up on this, laddie? Stop asking pointless questions. I'm sorry. I don't like dredging up these painful memories for everyone. Can you just stay away, new? Leave me alone and then not come back here, eh? How'd you come to ken about that, laddie? There's no many folk here in the prison who've heard of those papers. Well, I can't tell them Mr. Vigil told me. I'm afraid our sources must remain confidential, sir. We've been led to believe that the papers are actually a last will and testament. Is that right? The professor's, or rather, Genshin Asogi's? Aye, that's right. You're well informed, Jimmy. Oh, is that the end of the silent treatment? But then after the convict's execution, it mysteriously vanished from his cell, didn't it? Heavers no. You're off a half-cock there. I think you didn't quite get your facts straight. It was there in the cell, exactly where it should have been. Oh, not what we heard elsewhere. Let me just have a wee hulk-around in here. I'm sure I can find it. Aye, here you are. See? The last will and testament of Genshin Asogi, written with a calligraphy brush. Of course, I cannot read a word of those Japanese squiggles, but I mind it says he leaves all his worldly possessions to his son back in his homeland. Yes, that's correct. That's the gist of it. So these are the Asogi papers? Aye, of course they are. Papers written by Asogi. No doubt about it. There's no mystery here, laddie. That's your lot. After all, the Stramash old that slayster of an execution. We sent the man's possessions back to his clan in Japan, and that was the end of it. I think we ought to make a record of this, just in case. Can I read them? Oops. I, Genshin Asogi, hereby request that upon my death, any and all material possessions and wealth belonging to me in London be delivered to my son, Kazuma Asogi, in the Empire of Japan. It is with deep sadness that I accept my fate in this foreign land, in the knowledge that I will never see my homeland or family again, but I regret nothing about my chosen path. Okay. One thing afore you go on your way, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, yes? Those papers are now to do with Gregson's death. I preferred if you didn't make no mention of them outside this office, or rather, I wouldn't just prefer it. Consider it an order from the highest levels of our government. I understand.